Thank you. Well, I imagine that many of you have gone to Deer Lagoon to walk, to bird, just to regain peace of mind and connect with nature. And our speaker tonight is a Whidbey Islander who spends a lot of time at Deer Lagoon and is an amazing birder, Carlos Andersen. Carlos will be speaking about this Whidbey Island gem that many of us treasure, and he'll be sharing the history and the wonders of the lagoon and the steps that are needed to protect it and safeguard it for the future. This area is a national Audubon important bird area. Carlos is a Whidbey Audubon Society member, a field trip leader, and a former Conservation Committee member. He has dedicated his life to environmental protection and preservation, and you can often find him down at Deer Lagoon looking through binoculars or his scope at the incredible diversity of life that is there. So please welcome Carlos.
You hear me? Good. It's good, Tom? Do you want to put me in the dark? You want me to be in? Yeah, you can turn those off if you want. We're here for the presentation, on my face. Okay. Hold on. Do you want to get those?
Who wants to be in the dark?
Oh, I feel better now. Well, I'm so impressed with how many people have come out tonight. Thank you so much for coming. Cut to the chase. I love Deer Lagoon. Deer Lagoon is a phenomenal place. It's a gem. It's been called a sanctuary. It's been called a preserve. And it really is. It's when you get the bird out there, there's a number of things that fall into place. It's not only about the birds, it's about being in nature. It's extremely special, and it really helps recharge our batteries. It's a great place to unplug, and it's an important place to unplug from the internet, from all the things that we have going on, from the news of the world that is so depressing and so difficult to deal with now. This is a really great place to go, not only to bird, but to also give back our spirit and give back, ground ourselves to deal with what's going on in the world. So I think, so right now, if you look at all these birds out here, these are the American widgeons. We were just out there a little bit ago today, and this is about what it looks like. And if those of you that come out with us tomorrow or in the future just go out on your own, it's so beautiful, and there's so many birds. There's probably, I'm gonna guess, I guessed about 1,200 American widgeons out there today. Coots are over the top. I've never seen so many coots out here. A phenomenal amount of birds have just started to arrive. This is a great month. Usually around June or so, come summertime, the birds are already kind of done, made it up, and they're being quiet and feeding the kids, and everything's pretty quiet. So June's usually a little bit slower, but now is a really good time to go out and check things out. What I want to do with you is kind of share a little bit of what makes it, whoops, sorry about that, what makes it so special to me to be out there. What I'm going to do is take you for a little walk. We'll do a virtual walk down the trail coming off of Deer Lagoon Road. We'll walk in, we'll go down through this area. It's wonderful because there's three or four habitats that we'll get to pass through with different birds that are pretty much, I don't know where that's coming from, sorry. That we'll be able, that those birds are in those certain habitats. We'll go through that. We'll open up to the lagoon in this walk that we'll take together. I'll probably go on from there to share with you at the very end of this some of the concerns that I've seen over the last 20 years. And the 20 years is because back in 2004, the county bought Deer Lagoon, most of it. And in that 20 years, I've been here 25 to 30 years on the island, and what I've seen in the last 15 to 20 years, to me, shows us that we need to have a specific management plan specific to Deer Lagoon to help protect it. If we don't do it now, then we're going to lose this opportunity. And as you know, once you have a clear cut, you can't get all the trees back. So we're in a good opportunity right now, and that's what I'm going to share with you folks. And thanks again for being here. This is awesome. So when I first started doing this, and I told people that I was going to be doing this presentation, they're like, well, you need an icebreaker, and I go, I don't have an icebreaker. And they're like, well, I think you guys already know where I'm going here. But so it's like, well, you just need to go online and pick an icebreaker that you find one that you like and go with it. So that's what I came up with. I thought that's my favorite icebreaker. I like the lines and I like the teeth on the front of this thing. This is like gnarly, right? I mean, I love these icebreakers. Okay, so audience participation time. So this is a picture taken from the West Dike looking to the west. So for the next few pictures, just kind of listen. I know you're not going to hear what's out here, but kind of listen, put yourself in there, see how you feel with these next few pictures. So serenity, quiet, peace, things that we really need. Such a lovely place. I can go out there and spend a couple hours and really I feel like I've meditated for a long time. It's relaxing. It's just an absolutely beautiful place that we need to preserve and protect. This is a big part of it, the connection with nature. It brings us awe and inspiration. I know that I've been out there, whether I'm with my wife, Tony, or someone else, or by myself. I know that I've come out there some days and I'll walk out and I really probably will say out loud, oh, wow, this is awesome. This is so beautiful. And I've been out there hundreds of times. I've been extremely lucky in my life to being a mountain climber on expeditions throughout the world and also working in Olympic National Park. I've been in some of the quietest places, the most peaceful places in the world. And Deer Lagoon is not that quiet like those places, but it's really, really close. And it depends on the day. You'll get leaf blowers and you'll get the landscapers are out and, obviously the planes come through to Payne Field and some up to the San Juans. But when you're doing that, we are, the peace and the quiet and the silence that you get out there is very, very close to some of these beautiful places that I've visited throughout the world. Again, the serenity, kind of our stars out at Deer Lagoon are in the background out there are the white pelicans, and I'll probably talk about those beautiful birds in depth here as we go along. They show up about April. They're really a crowd pleaser. People come across the state to see this, if not from outside the state. They, yeah, we'll get into that a little bit more, but they are really the crowd pleasers. Wonderful to see. The beauty that I find out at Deer Lagoon too is that you have this wetland area that you're looking at now, and this is what you'll see when you first come up to the trailhead off of Deer Lagoon Road. You look out to this wetland off to the right, but the beauty is you've got the wetlands out there. These are the freshwater wetlands. You have saltwater wetlands and saltwater mudflats on the other side, and then you have this forested area in the middle. So then you have three different kind of habitats with three different groups of different birds. They do cross over, obviously, but then you also have farther out into the Sound, out in Useless Bay. So all these different interplays. I know of no other place here, if not that I've ever visited, birding that has this unique gem of all these systems put together, which brings the birds that hang out in each of those. You can go out there and probably tomorrow we'll see 30 to 40 birds easy in an hour. If we were to spend 3 hours out there, we might be able to pick up 50, 60, but it's just so rich and so lovely that it's really such a gem and a unique place. The sensitive birding picture or habitat in the picture is something that Audubon is bought and put out. This is in conjunction with the parks. parks don't really run or facilitate Deer Lagoon, and we'll get into that a little bit, so it's a little confusing, but they're on that. They do help out quite a bit. They've been really, really helpful. So as we get on, it's a lovely, obviously, birding place. It's just incredible to look at the birds. This is out on the West Dike, looking on the freshwater side. There's basically 3 dikes, and I'll talk about those. It's also kid-friendly. This is my grandson helping me pick out birds as we go along. This is a few years ago. If I tried to put him in a sling like that, there's no way, because he's going on 6 right now. So here's kind of the story and how we got where we are with Deer Lagoon. It was purchased in 2004, 379 acres from a federal grant that was passed through Department of Ecology, came through Fish and Wildlife, federal, and NOAA. And so the idea here is we're going to try to replace this sign, be an Audubon, and also put a kiosk out here. So this is one of the original sign that got put up back in 2004. So it's an important bird area, an IBA, and Kathy mentioned that. So it's not an important birding area. That would be more for what all of us, get into. It's like birding, yeah. This is an important bird area. It's important for the birds. That means of all these 3 habitats that we've talked about, you have the wonders of the migratory birds that come in and nest and stay and then head back south. We have the shorebirds that fly up, that come up, and they use Deer Lagoon as a rest and feeding area before they head up north to British Columbia or Alaska to breed, and then they come back through in the fall. So it's a critical area for them to feed and rest up as they come up from South America and go up to Alaska. So it's critical for that. Then we have the birds that are here most of the time year-round, and then we also have the waterfowl that is really critical for them to have this area that's safe, for them to be in a safe environment to spend the winter at, and that's what we're seeing now with all the widgeons that I showed you. And again, part of that being a safe place is having you can't hunt out here anymore. That was passed, I think, back in, code got put into place around 2010, 2009, 2010. Super important because the birds do feel safer. There is hunting on the outside, and you can tell when you get out there, like if tomorrow or whenever you go out and bird, you'll see that those birds are skittish. They've been shot at on the outside, so this is great that they have this safe place to come rest and feed and charge their batteries. As part of this grant, kind of the mantra, the marching orders of what the county signed off on was protect, preserve, and restore. And this is for fish and wildlife. A lot of it had to do with salmon, and that was a big draw, and it is still a big draw, is to protect habitat for salmon, but it also includes wildlife, including birds. We've got river otters out there. We've got all kinds of different animals and things out there that are fantastic to have. Coyotes are out quite a bit. But again, it's for fish and wildlife, and the mantra is protect, preserve, and restore, and we'll see this quite a bit. Recreation it's not even actually was in the language of this grant. It was a little bit at the end, but if the habitat or the conservation values are in any way impacted or degraded, then you can't even think about recreation. So my concern, and we'll talk about this more, about a management plan for Deer Lagoon, but we see a number of things that, again, in the last 20 years that are impacting those conservation values or the environment, and is being degraded, and we'll talk about that a little bit, but that's what we've seen in the last 20 years, and that's probably the most important piece, is to try to get the county to step up and honor what they did when they signed the agreement and got that money back in 2004 to purchase this. So this kind of gives you a little bit of an idea. This used to be part of almost a 1,500 acre wetland area that went up actually towards 525, went up the valley here. This is the golf course, and the people online probably or on Zoom cannot see this, so I'll try to explain it a little bit. You've got a freshwater wetland on the right, saltwater mudflats on the right. Left is my other right is the freshwater wetlands, and I'll show you another picture that shows the exact area. that we were able to purchase through that money. But you've got in the center here, these guys here, you've got a west dike, a central dike, and the eastern dike on the far side of that mudflat area. These dikes were put in way back when, around the 1900s, so that people could farm or they could hay, and you see still, some of that still going on over on the far right-hand side there. But getting on to the next one. So this is what actually the county was able to purchase with that money from that grant, and it's again the 379 acres. We've got 211 plus species that have been documented in this area. The kind of the way over on the right-hand side up, way right, which is going to be east, is owned by state parks. Mostly that's tidal lands. The DNR also owns a lot of the tidal land areas. I won't talk too much about it, but the chunk down in the bottom is the weak link at Deer Lagoon. It's privately owned, and the reason for this is that there's four homes down there, and these are 10-acre parcels. They were divided divided up into that space or into that size because this was going to be a marina way back when. There was going to be a lodge down here, a resort, and that was going to be a marina. For whatever reason, probably environmental regulations, that never happened, thank goodness. And so my concern is what we hope we see at some point in time is the county or some environmental organization will be able to work with these four homeowners, these four landowners or homeowners to kind of close that loop so we have full protection in the county's hands to protect this and preserve it and be as part of this work plan of how to manage it. So, hopefully they'll be able to work with those homeowners and everybody can come to an agreement that protects this place and takes that weak link out. Again, this shows kind of the two dikes. The mud flats down to the lower right, which is the saltwater side is what I'll probably talk about it as most. The freshwater up to the left, and then you've got the western dike, and then the one down below it is the central dike. Kind of in the past, most of this appeared to be the dikes were made of wood, but they reverted to more materials, rocky materials, and that's what these dikes are made of now. They've talked about taking these things out, but honestly, when the tide came in and given climate change, it would probably come around the backside. It would change. You wouldn't have a freshwater side anymore. It'd be brackish or it'd be, flushed in and out all the time. It would extend the tidal flat area for sure. But that water, when the tides came in, given that with climate change or what's happening, would flood out on Shore Avenue. The people that have those homes likely would do that. So these dikes likely will be here forever. So let's go for a walk. So this is what you see when you first come up to Deer Lagoon, off Deer Lagoon Road. The county used to have fences across there, and this is part of their marching orders was passive management of this. So, and passive recreation. Again, the recreation piece is supposed to be very, very passive recreation if and only if those conservation values and the habitat environment's not degraded. So the county was able to, they took out the fence that was out here. They used to have signs up, opened it up and put these boulders in, and now this is the start of your walk in. And this is the freshwater side of the wetland. Looking out towards Shore Avenue, you see Double Bluff off in the distance. You're kind of you're looking west basically here. So let's go for a walk. It's the most exercise I got all day. Again, that sign that we were able to put up with parks, with the help of parks is great. It reminds people as they first come into this area, basically really how sacred and sensitive environment it is and how important it is, and so that people can know that going in. It'll take about 5 minutes usually to get, and it's the sign, it's that old sign that I showed you before. It can take about 5 minutes to get in there. My friend George, who's a great birder, he's got it figured out. He slows it down. He will take sometimes an hour to get from here to that sign, which usually you and I would do it in 5 minutes if we were directly going there. He's a great birder. I can never match his list. He really makes me mad because he always has such great numbers, and I can never get up to that level because he slows it down. He takes his time. He listens. He gets into the nature. He gets into the piece of it. And that's what we all actually really need to do, is take that time out and unplug and just be with the nature. Look at this little guy. So one day, the resolution might be a little brighter on this screen, but on one day going in, this little guy met me. It's a killdeer, a little baby killdeer, really sweet. You know, along the way, again, so we're looking at kind of the wooded area, right? So we're going to look at kind of given the season, whatever time of year it is, we'll see the warblers come in, you know, in the spring, and they'll set up. We have flycatchers, you have the woodpeckers, the flickers. Obviously, I don't have 211 pictures of each of those birds that you would expect to see at Deer Lagoon. At least I don't have 211 decent pictures, but song sparrow, very common to see. Actually, they'll be working the gravel on the road. Here is a white-crowned sparrow. And once everybody starts singing, it's just music. I mean, it's just so phenomenal. Here's a little chilly flicker that's hanging out. And they're usually between woodpeckers are always seemingly hard to find in that first section. Nuthatches and creepers, but the woodpeckers are hard to find, but lots of flickers. I saw 150 pine siskins there this morning. Sapsucker, and that's its nest right there. And as you come in, that'll be on the right-hand side. Lots of birds have lots of their nests in that starting area, sorry. So the rufous hummingbirds, these guys, they haven't showed up yet. I don't know I don't remember seeing any reports yet of a varied thrush, but they'll usually be in this first section on the trail, and boy, when they're singing in the morning, just like the other thrushes, this being a varied thrush, but also the hermit thrushes or the Swainsons, it's incredible to hear them. It's just music. It really is. And look at these birds. They're so beautiful. This probably doesn't do it justice in the picture on that resolution on the screen, but they're like this beautiful blue. It's really fun to see them and hear them. The sweet little Anna's trying to figure out where it's going to get its next meal. You know, just for everybody, I'm sure everybody knows here I'm preaching to the choir, but make sure that you feed them in the winter. The only reason they're around in the winter is because we feed them. Other than that, they would migrate out. So because the rufuses take off early and head back down to Central America or south, they really need the food in the morning. I know we all wrestle with this during cold weather, but they can't be without food for very long, and especially in the wintertime, they really need to be fed, and we need to put our feeders out. These guys have thrown me for a loop a couple times because when they show up, so they've just returned recently to our area. These are fox sparrows. Incredible song. They have just this really sweet, beautiful song that, you know, you've been listening all spring, all summer, and all of a sudden you get this new bird, this new song out there. Like, what the heck is that? You know? So, and then it's like, oh, these guys. And they'll do their song is beautiful, but they also have a little tick, 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 and it's very distinctive. And you can tell when they're doing that, oh, that's a fox. But when they sing, again, it's just more music. Well, who have we here? Barred owl. And really, not a very, it's not shy. A very sweet owl. You can see barred. We'll have barred, short-eared, and long-horned owls out at the lagoon. Cedar waxwings, just crazy, beautiful little birds. Their song's a little bit high for my hearing as I've aged. I've kind of lost that piece of it, but just beautiful, cool-looking birds. This is a little guy that showed up, I think about a year ago. And so we're still on the trail, right? We're still on the trail heading to the sign. We're still in the forested area. You've got the water on the right-hand side, which is a bit of a channel. And this is an eastern phoebe that showed up that was found. And it hung out for about a week. But it's totally off course, and it was quite a surprise and quite a draw for people. Lots of people came from all over. Several times I would meet people out there, and I'd say, give me your number, I'll call you, I'll text you if it shows up again. And so that was really fun. You'll hear these guys more than you will see them. This is a Virginia rail. Kind of funny that so here's my stories, right? So I was taking pictures, or looking through my scope, and had backed off my scope after looking around, and right down in front of me, this Virginia rail had come out. So I'm looking, usually Deer Lagoon, you need a scope. you can get by with binoculars, but scope will help you bring in these faraway birds. This little dude just showed up, and I'm just like, whoa, you know, I just almost stumbled over. My pack-up was on the ground to get my camera out to take pictures. You'll mostly hear these along the way, and surprisingly so, I usually have only seen one or two. 2 months ago, we were out down on the far end, down the trail at the dike. 7 were out. Incredible. And that's a real secretive bird, as is this Sora. The Sora's very low key, and you know, you really got to be still. And again, George, my buddy, you know, he's able to, by being still, by being quiet, he'll see all these birds. Speaking of loud, there's your red-winged blackbird. You know, they'll build up. They're out there now, but they will build up there when they start nesting. They really build up their numbers, and they get really chatty. Sometimes we also, every once in a while, we'll have a yellow-headed blackbird out there. It's kind of rare-ish for there, but we do see them. And then the great horned owls definitely will be out there. This is a snoozy one. It's a little bright for it. Saw the other day, so this is a Sharpie, a hawk. The other day we had Cooper yesterday, and the day before was a Sharpie that was running through the woods. And this is kind of where they hunt and come through. Sorry, Sharpie is a sharp shin hawk, and a Cooper's hawk is Cooper's hawk. So by the time you get out there and you start being scolded by these sweet little birds, this is a marsh wren, you'll know that you've reached out to the sign, and now you've come out of the darkness and being in the woods, which is great in the summertime when it's cool and out of the wind, but then you've come to the sign, and now you're starting out onto the dike. So if you look way up and to the right, there's a channel of water up here, up in the right corner of the screen, and that's where we just walked in now. Now we're standing down just kind of on basically where the two dikes come to in the green spot. That's where the sign is, and that's where we're. Hello, there we go. Sorry about that. I love this technology, by the way. You should have seen me put this PowerPoint together on the Mac and then get it to a Microsoft system and try to get PowerPoint to Keynote, and yeah, it was fun. Actually, I started out this project with dark hair. Is everyone happy? All right. Hello. Yeah, let's do that. Felt like I was Spock or something like that with that thing on my ear. So you're on the dike right now. This is the western dike. It's pretty much brackish water in the middle here, but also on the right-hand side, what you'll have is the freshwater side. Absolutely lovely on these mornings. I just can't say it enough. I'm sorry. It's just so beautiful and incredible. And again, there are some inherent noises that you'll get, but most of the time, I'm going to say 80% of the time, it's peaceful and it's quiet, and it really is, nice and restful. Double Bluff off to the left. Incredible on a nice calm day. This is about where we're thinking about putting that kiosk somewhere in this area, and we're hoping that it has a couple seats on it. We'll shrink down, get rid of that old sign, and have a kiosk and have an ability for people to sit, and also provide some really good information of where this all came from. Hopefully you'll get the flyover by the pelicans. They are probably about 5 feet in length. They're about 9 feet in their wingspan. Both male and females get this hump on their bill That puts them in a breeding mode. They'll lose that when they're not actually in the breeding mode. They, what we've heard is they're probably 2-year Jewies, that they're not breeding and have not nested here yet. We're really hopeful that they will nest. And so there's some things that we can do to get them, hopefully a good environment for them to nest here. They are a fish and wildlife. They got downgraded from threatened to sensitive, but they still are a species of concern. Under the Migratory Bird Act, they're covered as well as almost every other bird. So almost all birds that you see are covered under that, such that you can't harass them, chase them, smash their nests. Dogs can't do that. Those are federal crimes. When they fly over, so Patty and I were out there doing some of the restoration work, which I'll talk a little bit about, but we're out there peaceful and quiet, and these birds will come flying over. We've had up to 400 of them about a year or two ago. Back in 2016 is about the time that they first showed up. They're rare, or have been rare, on the west side of the mountains. They're more found on the east side. Again, they don't nest out here, but a really unique crowd pleaser that people come from all over. They don't like people, and I'll explain that and expand on that probably at nauseum here in a bit, but cool birds. And again, we have a really unique place out there for all the different birds to nest and to raise their young. These are more of a local type, the Canada goose. They have about 2 to 12 eggs. My reminder is always look up. These swans will fly over, and I'm always pretty much looking through my scope, and so this is kind of the reminder to, and I think there's a book out there about birding, is to look up. I think it's a kid's book, but to look up, and I think that's really good advice. This is a wonderful green-winged teal. We've seen cinnamon teal, blue, and these green-winged teals out there. They're a little bit smaller than ducks. You can really pick them out when you see them. Beautiful birds, but they're a little bit smaller than the other ducks that are out there. Sorry for the feedback. The rat-a-tat-tat of the kingfisher. The most I've seen out here is 2, and they're kind of hit and miss, but they're out here, as you can see on the pilings. They can be on either side. They cruise back and forth between saltwater and freshwater. This is on the freshwater side, but very, very likely see them. The ospreys, sometimes you'll see a large number of them. They fish out into Useless Bay. They'll grab the fish, bring them out, and either take them back home for the kids, or they'll sit out here and feed on these pilings. They are the most thoughtful bird that I know. They'll actually pick up their bird and flip it around so that it sees which way it's going. It's like an aerodynamic thing, but it's crazy how they actually in midair will flip that bird around, flip the fish around if it's backwards so that it sees where it's going. This is a male northern shoveler. Absolutely beautiful. If you get the light just right for any photographers here, it just is so much fun to get. Usually it's the western light that comes down on them. Even a mallard's head, when it's illuminated, is just absolutely beautiful. These birds are out there right now. Cinnamon teals I've not seen since earlier in the year, but they're a crazy beautiful bird, as you can tell. These guys will also be out there. And I got a little sad story of what I found today was one of these that would have been the first one that would have been here this fall that would have arrived. And we've been patiently waiting for them to show back up. We had 2 here at Deer Lagoon last year, but today we found a dead one on the Central Dike that probably got hit by an eagle or a red-tailed hawk. So really sad, very actually heartbreaking, because we really were so excited to see these birds come back, and these are the short-eared owls. Buffleheads galore, lots of them have showed back up. And again, a lot of these birds head north. Some will stay here during the summertime, but a lot of them head north, and then they come back down here to winter over. So that's the beauty of that is that they'll come back and we get to see them now. So kind of the take on between the tides is that this mudflat, when the tides come in and out, they bring different birds or take different birds with them. So between the tides is not only the freshwater side and the mudflat side or the saltwater side, but also as the tides come in, they'll push those peeps or shorebirds towards you. And when it goes back out, it will take those birds a little bit with them, but when it opens up that mudflat, it's just, gangbusters where they're out feeding, and it's really exciting to see what, again, that brings. So you can see, again, freshwater to the northeast corner or to the upper left corner, and out here into the mudflats down on the lower part. You can tell when the tide's out, too. You can smell the sulfur. I saw a ton of baby crabs just about in this area. There's I think it's probably a non-functioning flapper gate that goes between the freshwater side and the saltwater side, so it'll shut down and keep freshwater fresh and the saltwater out. But right at that gate, probably 2 to 3 weeks ago, there was probably, I'm going to say 100 really small crabs, and I do not believe that they were invasive. I believe that they were the Dungeness. So that's like, this is just the baby, nursery for fish and forage fish and birds and all kinds of great stuff. It's, again, I can't say enough positive things about it. So on this mudflat side, again, the peeps or the shorebirds, and again, you can see, these are the widgeons, American widgeons. They'll go on both sides too. A lot of the birds, like I say, they can be on both sides. Little sandpiper, or the peeps. Some of these you can see off on the left-hand side, really, really good-looking black-bellied plovers in their full plumage. You can see maybe a little, if you see any orange color on that, there's probably going to be western sandpipers, and then you've got some Dunlins in there. But when these black-bellied plovers, and a lot of times they'll stick around for the winter out there, really beautiful birds, especially when they're like this, but they're also really cool when they're in their normal plumage. Whimbrel, poking around. We've had long-billed curlews out here. Lots. Sometimes I think we've had upwards of counted maybe up around 20 of these whimbrels. And it's great also to see the sewing machine, all like the dowitchers, they're just going nuts, poking and trying to get invertebrates and just really feeding well. The savanna sparrow, so some of the areas off on the fringes where there's vegetation, these savannas really move in during the summertime, and they're out there singing all the time. Greater yellowlegs, quite a few. They've actually for some reason left recently, so they may have moved south a little bit, but they'll be back, and they spend a lot of their time here. Northern shrike, I read where somebody saw one of these out there today. They'll cruise around. They're hard to find. They don't come around a lot, but when they're here, they're beautiful birds to see. And American pipit out on the kind of in the driftwood area. They'll come through this time of year as well, and in the spring as well, heading north. What's the plan? And so that's what I've been talking about, is we need a detailed site-specific plan for Deer Lagoon. I feel that the comprehensive plan, the comp plan, is kind of an umbrella plan for growth management. It's a requirement through growth management, but I don't feel that umbrella plan is so generic. It's great for most things. It doesn't do justice to Deer Lagoon. And again, based on the bottom line that the county commissioners at that time signed on that bottom line, the mantra was protect, preserve, and restore. And they were supposed to do passive management. And unfortunately, I feel, having watched what's happened out here, that they've leaned on that spectrum way over to the passive side. And honestly, I've not seen much of anything taking place in the last 20 years. So I don't feel that the county has really done their piece for what they signed on to do. Some of the issues that I've noted and a plan would address: boats. Boats have no business being on either side of in this lagoon. Goss Lake has a requirement or a code that says that no petroleum-based boats can be in there. This is a petroleum-based boat. It has a petroleum motor on it. Petroleum spills are devastating to the environment. They're devastating to the birds. Once it got into their feathers, they would ingest it as they preened. So petroleum has no business being out here. We also, my next picture will talk about kite surfing or kiteboarding, but also with this one is the concern with aquatic invasive species. When you bring boats in here, or you bring a kayak in, or a canoe, even a paddleboard, if it's not being cleaned properly from where it came, you'll potentially bring in invasive species. If you do that, my understanding is once they get established, you'll never get rid of them. Kite surfers. So during one of the surveys in November, a couple years back, we noted that these kite surfers had come into the saltwater side of the lagoon. It's usually it's got to be high tide and it's got to be a high wind event. And so they'll come into this area. You can see the birds are on high alert. They're on high alert anyway because of the wind. It's disoriented to them, and they're not feeling as safe as they want to be. They look out at these kite surfers or kite boarders. I think that's kind of the same language. You've got a vertical human being coming at you at about 20, 30 miles an hour. That's got to be disconcerting, especially for a bird. They look at these big kites as predators. And so they're really freaked out. So they do take flight. You can see how they're all kind of headed to the south. They're headed to the right. They're faced that way. It's like horses do in a storm, is that any animal does. So they're faced into the wind. So what happens is if they have to take off, if these things come too close, they will take off. If they take off, it's just like a hawk or these ospreys where they can hover in place. And it's the same thing with these birds, these ducks that are wintering over. As they take off, they're kind of stuck in air because they're fighting that wind that comes out of the south. Perfect setup to get nailed by an eagle or any kind of another raptor to nail them. So they're not only stressed, but also they're potentially endangering their health, getting knocked off. So our favorite friends, the pelicans, they don't like us. They don't like people. I try to talk to them about it, but they don't like it. So here's the deal with them. So they don't tolerate people very well. There's a story of on the 4th of July, well, up in Padilla Bay, there was 40 nests. Back in 2021, there was about 40 nests. They abandoned those nests the day after the 4th of July. Why do you think that was? You got the Swinomish reservation there and lots of really great fireworks, and unfortunately it spooked them out and they abandoned that site. Our concern is the same thing will happen if they ever decide to nest at Deer Lagoon. They really are only established, they're rare on the west side. On the east side, they're really only established, the only real place that they have a colony is around the Tri-Cities area, upwards of 2,000. They've had colonies on other islands, but because of dogs and also people approaching them, they've abandoned those colonies. So there's really only basically one right now that's inactive and a really established colony that's going on. Our hope is if we ban or try to keep the boats out of there and dogs and everything else, potentially during just a specific season, breeding season, that they would establish and they would nest here. They like islands. The feeling is that they may be a climate refugee, that they've, due to drought, things have dried up down in southern Oregon. It's pushed them north. These are the spies that have come in north looking for a new place to establish colonies. They need islands. They need islands that are small islands to nest on, but they need it surrounded by water so that coyotes or other predators don't get in there and eat the chicks or get on the eggs. Here's a good example of that. This is in July. This one person on eBird posted, and you can see down there's 48, a circle piece, that this person was trying to count the pelicans that he saw, but unfortunately these kayakers that came in, and before he could get a good count on them, spooked them out. So there's, again, the problem is the pelicans do not tolerate people well. As you saw in some of these pictures, I'm not sure if I have another one or not, but they are a distance away from the dikes. They like their peace and quiet, and they like to be away from people. They like to lounge, they like to chill, but they don't like us. One of the other issues that we had, and it was really bad for a while, and it's actually gotten quite a bit better, was people and their dogs. They treat this as, some people treat it as an off-leash area, which it is not. The off-leash area is over at Double Bluff. People will come out here and have their dogs run off-leash. They can't keep track of their dogs. Their dogs poop, and sometimes they'll pick it up, sometimes they don't see it. A lot of times the problems that we had was we noted when the leaves dropped off of all the vegetation, it's like a Christmas tree, all these ornaments, purple bags, black bags, green bags, blue bags. People pick it up, but they didn't take it home. So I don't get that piece of it, but coming down the wooded area on the trail in the first 5 minutes, these homeowners put out this, I think this spring, they put out this container and it says, please care for this marsh by cleaning up pet waste. And you can see how successful this was. I mean, these people were great, and it just took those folks and their initiative to put this out and to make a difference. And it really, I feel, all of us, I think we've gone out there, has really made a difference. We still do have a little bit of this as an issue, more the bags than anything else, and also people off leash, but I try to be as nice as I can and talk to them about, please put your dog on a leash. This is an article I did for Shorelines. You can get it online. It's back in September. If you want to get more details out of it, please take a look at it there. I just want to say one thing, or a couple things off of this. Did some really good research. It's well known and well documented that dogs have a negative impact on wildlife and on the environment. Personally, I don't think that Deer Lagoon is the best place for dogs to be. It really does need to be a refuge. It's just like a national park. You're not allowed to have dogs on trails. You have them in the front country on a leash, but I don't think Deer Lagoon potentially is the best place for it. I think Deer Lagoon really deserves the respect of being a gem, a preserve, a sanctuary, and dogs may not fit actually into that. The thing I have here, you see on the left-hand side, since COVID, around the COVID time, pandemic, 9 million dogs were introduced into American homes as pets. That's a population of New York City. So, and we've also seen the increase of population on the island too. So since they bought the lagoon, we bought it as taxpayers, but the county bought it. You've got maybe 100,000 to 12,000 increase in people, maybe a 15% increased growth. You've got more dogs, more people, more uses out there. More people are pushing that envelope. I want to do this out there. I want to do that out there. And again, probably the most, if it's allowed, which it isn't under the federal grant, but if it's allowed where there wasn't this degradation, it would be birding, photography, very low-key impacts for recreation. This is not a place to really have heavy-duty recreation go on. It needs to be a very low-key, soft type of recreation that takes place. One of the disasters that's taken place here recently is the avian flu, HPAI, and I see Dr. Parents here, and Dave, if you want to speak to this at all, please do. The avian flu is knocked out. We've actually noticed a decrease of the Caspian terns at Deer Lagoon this year. I'm sure that we noticed that they were dropping off in their numbers. What's happened locally, and avian flu only showed up here recently, avian influenza. Over at Rat Island, over near Port Townsend, there was a colony over there, and they lost about 2,000 chicks and adults due to the avian flu. The problem with that, and this ties back into dogs, is that I don't think it's actually been able to be transferred to people now, but they do warn and they do see where it's actually killed dogs. Not common, but it can, that if a dog were to eat an infected or an injured or dead bird that was infected, or if it were to sniff the fluids, that it could potentially kill the dog. So that's another good reason to have a dog on a leash if it is out, is to try to keep it under control and keep it away from sniffing around and getting into to these birds that could be infected. Again, protect, preserve, restore. That's the mantra. This happened in March. A property owner, I mean, it's pretty obvious that you can kind of tell where it would come. Property owner wanted to improve their views looking out into the lagoon. So what they did is it went down an Island County property in a wetland critical area and cut down trees. Sad. And I'll tell you why in a sec. So this is part why you need a plan. It's in code that you can't go on Island County property without a permit a written permit and do anything. You can't cut, dig, whatever. I wasn't impressed how this was handled per se, but to credit of the Public Works Director, Connie Bowers, she did direct staff to write a letter to a lot of the homeowners that were in this area. And so at least there was a soft warning, but it's kind of heartbreaking, and for me, for us, and because these trees got limbed all the way up. So the problem with that was about 10 feet up the tree on the right-hand side was this, and been there for every year. A bush tit would make its sock nest in those branches, and you can almost reach it. These are the sweet little birds that were there. They don't have a home anymore there. They have to go somewhere else. So this person took it upon themselves to limb up these trees to improve their view, but without consideration of protecting and restoring and preserving what's there, which is the mantra. They did it on Island County property. So unfortunately that happened. It was a bit of a heartbreaker, but we still see a lot of them. They're still out there. Another bird that was there quite a bit was a great horned owl. We'd come back at dusk and that would be hanging out right there. Just so cool. I mean, and now obviously the perch is gone. So a couple years ago, this is the west side, got mowed down, got obliterated by Island County. The Shore Avenue's in the background there, and the colony out there, the Union Bay colony folks have been great to work with and to be out there with. When these dikes were mowed down, it was at the peak of breeding season. Why they didn't get fined by the feds for a taking is beyond me, and they're very lucky. But on that note, it opened the door for Whidbey Audubon to coordinate with Island County to do a restoration project where we put in with them
Well, there's a big painter on right there.
Trees, native plants along the sides. And so to me,
Painter sitting right.
Definitely a win-win. Credit to Commissioner Bacon. She's been very supportive. This is the health department also. This is the health department crew, the DNR crew, Department of Natural Resources, not the state, but at the county level. And this crew was able to, with the help of Commissioner Bacon, was able to get a truck. This is not in their job description. They do water quality things, water sampling, testing. They were able to get a truck, get water, and came out all summer long, once a week, to water these plants and try to bring them back because they were getting really, really dried out. They were being impacted. Patty and I spent a ton of time out there working with them and working with these plants, trying to get them to breathe some life into them and bring them back. And so next year, next spring, take a look out there and let's see what we've got. But I'm hopeful that we were able to save them. If not, there was a $5,000 investment by Island County, $5,000 by us as members through Audubon that went into that. 240 hours plus volunteer time that Patty and others put into that plan for restoration. So a huge investment on our part. I hope it bounces back. So Deer Lagoon is a preserve. It's a sanctuary. It's a total gem. It's like a treasure trove when you go out there. You can go out one time and not see birds, come back in about an hour or two, and all these other birds will show up. It's incredible. It's really fun. It is seriously like a treasure hunt. If you take your time and just slow it down, you can the birds will come out and you'll really see a lot of great stuff. So it deserves the very highest levels of protection. No other place on Whidbey is as unique or special. I cannot think of a place that has these 3 or 4 different type of habitats next to each other with the crossover of birds that you have an opportunity to see so many different birds in such a small area in such a short time. It's truly unique. I'm hoping again, and we have an opportunity on this comp plan to provide our comments. It's updated every 10 years based on the Growth Management Act at the state level. We have an opportunity to provide our comments that we need a specific plan out here. We need to protect this. We need to take better care of this. Now that land use has changed over the last 20 years, we need to do our part as the county, and all of us get to comment on this because public participation is a huge part of it, and it's a requirement of that process. So birds and wildlife need and deserve a safe and undisturbed place to rest and feed. You know, I gotta hand it to the birds, man. They got a tough life. I mean, seriously, they've got these the migratory birds and the shorebirds, they're traveling for days. They're traveling thousands of miles. They've got, just like this owl that we found today, short-eared owl finally made it back from British Columbia. Probably got in last night, just hanging out, having a great time feeding. And some inconsiderate raptor comes in and nails it. Actually, you know, I try not to joke about that. I shouldn't, because it is really sad. The short-eared owls are incredible. We don't get a long time to see them. Luckily, it sounds like they're at Crockett Lake now, so I definitely recommend that people try to get a look at them at dusk. They're diurnal. They'll be out during the day a little bit, so phenomenal birds to see. But they got a tough life, you know, and they really deserve a quiet and a peaceful place to just kind of hang out and lounge, because their life is not easy. And people need nature. You know, it's well documented that people being out in nature, the walks, like go out there and take out your earbuds and, you know, listen to what's out there and really enjoy the nature is really beneficial. It'll drop your blood pressure. It's, again, well documented that it has major health benefits. So make your voice heard by talk to the commissioners, send the commissioners, you know, emails and your feelings if you feel the way that I do about Deer Lagoon or any of these areas. These are critical, sensitive areas. They need protections. Deer Lagoon, in my opinion, needs specific attention because of the uniqueness that it is, where it's located. We need to preserve it now. If we don't take care of it now, the next update for the comp plan is in 10 years. I've seen what's happened in the last 10 or 20 years. We've seen the population growth. We cannot afford another 10 years. People will start doing whatever they want to do. And so we need to speak up now. It's up to the county to do what they want to do at that point in time. But if we don't speak up now, we won't have another chance. We will have lost this beautiful place. That's it. Thank you.
Ask you if you have any questions. Is this one working? It is. Okay. Here, you can have that one. Any questions? He covered it so well. Yes.
I have, first I want to thank you.
You bet.
It was a real celebration of the place.
Excellent. That's great.
Yeah. And I would just like to affirm what you said about the need for a plan and encourage you to build on the cooperation that you've already built with the county.
Mm-hmm.
I suspect a volunteer committee would be well received. Mm-hmm. And without a volunteer committee, I don't know that the work can be done. And I'm speaking because I am affiliated with the county-appointed volunteer Marine Resources
MRC,
Committee.
Great, excellent,
Right.
Excellent.
The other thing that I'd like to just ask is if we could get volunteers from the Audubon to continue to work with the watering of the plants.
Right.
I know the staff person that was made responsible for that, and she was out on those hot summer days and really concerned that all the work and all the effort was marginal.
Yeah.
So we need help.
Right.
And I think the county would be very receptive. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't a question, but it's a real encouragement.
Yeah, thank you so much.
We have been working with the county for months now about all of this, and we have been willing to go out and water ourselves, but we can't get the gate opened. They won't open the gate for us, so we haven't been able to do that yet.
So
we need a committee. We haven't got our committee. It's just mostly Carlos and I. There are some other people who go out there and help. Linda Griesbach is leading a group that goes out and weeds sometimes, and it usually ends up being her and her husband that go out and weed. And this means weeding Scotch brooms, so we're trying to help out. Anyway, the best we can. We don't have enough people that want to do it, so anyway. More questions?
Yes. Yes, I have a question about the pelicans. You had mentioned that they originated down in Oregon. They migrate up from Oregon.
They go south. They go quite a bit further south than that. They will go south, but we're thinking that the potential groups that we see are coming out of Oregon because of the droughts down there, where they used to be down around, this is Malheur, I think, and they used to be down in that area, but due to drought, those areas have dried up. So they lose their protection by not having islands surrounded by that water. Some of the common thought processes is that maybe they're out hunting, looking for a new place before they establish their nests.
You know, an acquaintance of mine had told me that down in Mexico, she lives in Mexico, at Lake Chapala, they have a big pelican group down there. And is there any possibility those migrate up from Mexico?
That's a good question. You know, I'm not sure about that. That seems like a long way for them to come just up to here, but I don't know if anybody, you know, Dave again, Perrin might know, Dr. Perrin, but I've not heard of anything. I've never seen one being tagged that you could follow it with, but I mean, that's a potential, but I would think they would not travel quite that far to come up here. I would think that these are a little bit closer that we see.
Yeah, I had just joked with her that I would maybe dye one pink, and if she saw it, but now that you say that they don't like people, I'm not going to get anywhere close to one.
So I was going to comment too that the need for a plan is huge. This umbrella plan is not sufficient, that it covers all the generalizations in the county for growth management. It doesn't. Deer Lagoon is too unique, and so it needs to have a site-specific detailed plan. The Barnum Point, I believe that the Whidbey Communal Land Trust pulled together that one that the Island County either adopted, and then that was used for Barnum Point, and that's a really good example, and actually maybe a good boilerplate to use for something like that. And I was going to mention another thing too with the avian flu. I guess I forgot what that was. I'll think of it.
Susan Bennett from the Zoom people has a question. Can you get it set up for her? Susan, you'll have to take yourself off of mute and allow him to set it up for you. It takes a minute or two. Can she try now?
Now?
Okay, go ahead, Susan.
In the beginning, Deer Lagoon's acquisition was partly made possible by members of Whidbey Audubon and Phyllis Kind, Francis Wood, and several other people with, in a minor way like me, did the research, went out every week or two for a year and built a bird list, presented that and a plan to the county. Actually, that was the beginning of VINS, Kathy will tell you. But Whidbey Audubon has maintained a larger or smaller interest in Deer Lagoon from the beginning. I believe it was it you, Sarah, who did the research to make it an important bird area. In any case, we need to continue by creating a plan to go into the comprehensive plan. Oh, yeah, one more thing. The county's Conservation Futures Fund contributed to the purchase of this land. And there are certain requirements for conservation and for use that go along with it. And it would be a good idea to look into the records and find out what the initial requirements were. That's it.
Thank you, Susan. Okay, David Parent has something to say.
Oh, just a great job, Carlos. Really enjoyed the pictures and memory lane and all that. I get down there a lot myself. Avian influenza is still out there. You know, we're not testing for it very much now. That's a government, budget concern. It's mainly only commercial chicken flocks, that sort of thing that they're testing for. The pelicans are kind of interesting. I've spent a lot of time in southeastern Oregon and Malheur area. There's a human-made island out in the middle of Malheur Lake that was a good nesting area for Caspian terns and cormorants and pelicans too, but there's been drought there. And you're right, coyotes could get out there and disturb, eat the eggs, nestlings, all that sort of thing. I think 2016, when they first started showing up, there was a really bad drought there, and nothing bred on that island because the coyotes could get out there. So I've always thought that it was failed breeders or birds that couldn't find another nest that caused them to come up here originally, but it'd be interesting to see if they will breed here.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I was going to say what we've noticed is I talked to my Fish and Wildlife contact the other day, and he said that unfortunately there's an uptick now on the avian influenza, and we've noticed with anyway. So it looks like it's not gone. I think we've had. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think there was the swan down on the south end that tested positive for AI about a year or two back. There was a pelican at Deer Lagoon, but I think it was inconclusive for what killed it. And that was last year. So we haven't seen a lot of kill-offs, but like I say, the Fish and Wildlife contact that I have up on the north end of the island says that there's an uptick, that we are seeing, unfortunately, an uptick this fall.
So I really appreciate the presentation you gave tonight. It's really excellent to see the pictures and everything. We live above Sunlight Beach, kind of up behind Bayview Road. And during the Christmas holiday season, we'll hear hunters still active.
Yeah.
And we think it's over in the saltwater marsh area.
Right.
But we understood that, I'm really glad to hear there's no hunting over in the Deer Lagoon side. Mm-hmm. But I thought Ducks Unlimited was still supporting part of that lagoon area. You know anything about the Ducks Unlimited involvement in earlier years?
I don't know in the history, going through things, I haven't seen their name actually pop up. I wouldn't doubt that though. Those type of organizations have done huge amount for conservation of these areas and wetlands and things like that, and so they've done a lot of that, but I'm not sure. I think hunting used to go on to the east on the eastern end, and you're right, there's a lot of hunting that's, because we're up on the hill, so we hear the guns going off quite a bit. They can, I think they launched down by Double Bluff or whatever, and they can go in and they can hunt outside of the lagoon area. But yeah, to answer your question, I've not seen that name come up much, but I wouldn't doubt it, that they've been part of it.
Any other questions? Yes.
I'm here because I was interested in the white pelicans, which I was seeing at Crockett Lake. for about a month, in August, I think it was. And I'm wondering, does anyone know about, do they nest there or?
No, not yet. Not yet. They run up and down the coast. We've seen them at Sandy Point. We've seen them up the coast of the island. We've seen them up at March Point. Again, my story back in 2021. So they are cruising up and down. I'm not sure if they're looking for a new place to nest or it's just youngins just kind of hanging out and looking for places to lounge and kick back and to eat and to feed. But they don't nest on the island at all. We don't have any places. And that is our hope at Deer Lagoon. It's a good spot. Some people have talked about coming out and building mounds potentially. I'm not sure that would fly based on environmental regulations, but it might. You know, it might if they're establishing it, but I don't know. That would be awesome if they did. That would be a huge influx to the economy because people come from all over to see them. And again, their season is probably April to September. And the water's really high right now down there, but it does drop. It's dropped pretty low this summer. This summer seemed really dry, but if you place those islands in the right place, if they were able to establish them, they could be protected by the water around them and, you know, be able to have nests there. Cross our fingers.
So great talk, Carl.
Thank you.
As you know, I'm not a birder, but I have a sort of a related question, which is obviously Deer Lagoon is really important for migratory birds, as is Crockett Lake. And my question is this: how much of an interaction is there between places like Crockett and Deer Lagoon? Are they sharing those habitats? For example, if they get pushed off of Deer Lagoon because there's hunters out on the saltwater side, are those birds moving up to Crockett Lake? And I guess my question is this: does the plan need to look a little more holistically at the island in terms of having a portfolio of migratory refuge areas rather than just one focal point?
Right. The Deer Lagoon's popped up because of its importance and my love for that place because it's so unique. Crockett Lake has, and actually Deer Lagoon is a little bit more, there's less players to deal with. Crockett Lake has a ton of players to deal with. Swantown or Swan Lake is a place that could actually, where this could potentially work. To answer your first question, yeah, I think that they do cruise up and down. You know, if they get flushed out of here, they're going to go up north or go down south or try to find another place to feed. It's a great idea. Holistically, yeah, we definitely should be looking at it holistically. But I think I started down this path a couple years ago, and it's a big bite. And so the best thing that I felt is to identify Deer Lagoon because it was the most, you could probably get, I don't want to say bang for your buck, but you could get the most, with the effort that you put into it. I felt that the opportunity for positive outcomes were there, you know, and it's so important because of the trails and the dikes for people to walk and for our health as well as the birds' health. And it's, again, this totally unique environment that I felt that's why I've kind of picked it, you know, as my mission in life now is to focus on that. Because I think we do have an opportunity. Again, it'll be in Island County's hands. It's up to all of us to comment on this comp plan and to get our comments in. And we've got till, I don't know when it's open. The final plan is due in 2025 June, but that's probably, you know, hopefully that answered that. It's the easier thing. It's a smaller thing. It's mainly the Island County to work with, and maybe those 4 landowners to the south. You know, maybe if they'll get on board, if they're willing to, and the county would buy a little bit of their land and close that loop for the weak link. But that's the easiest. That's the reason for that one. I think again, Crockett is man, I tell you, you got state parks, you've got land trust, you've got U.S. government. I've looked up on site. It's like, so who do you approach to deal with that? I mean, who do you approach? So Deer Lagoon's the easiest one, and I think it's obviously the best one in my opinion. So that's where we're at. Thanks.
A small comment. I'm pretty certain. In fact, I've observed that the pelicans. I'm sorry. The pelicans feed very aggressively on the small fish populations that are in the lagoon. I know I've watched a flock of maybe 25 to 50 of them just enjoying themselves for dinner.
Right.
Okay. This has been a wonderful presentation. Thank you very much, Carlos, for your doing it.
Thank you all
Thank
for
you
coming
all.
here.
Thank you all for attending. It is so exciting to have so many people come out. Thank you. Have a nice evening.